Kids today can sit down at a computer, boot up a high-definition first-person shooter, and they can stream that game over the internet to anyone who wants to watch. And if it's a multiplayer game, anyone around the world can join in. When I was a kid and sat down to a computer, I was a little square that picked up an arrow and tried to stab an 8-bit dragon. If you know what I'm talking about, today's episode will be a trip down memory lane. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, you should have a good laugh at the technology we're about to see. I'm Brian Johnson, and this is Nobody You Know. Hello and welcome to Nobody You Know, and in today's episode I am sitting next to a good friend of mine who I discovered recently has really gotten into the whole nostalgia thing by becoming obsessed. Is obsessed a legitimate word?
No, not by a long shot.
Is that an understatement?
No.
No, overstatement.
Overstatement.
Okay, all right.
I could show you obsessed. We could get online, I can show you obsessed.
Okay, so compared to others is what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's wildly enthusiastic.
There we go.
About the resurgence of the 1980s gaming systems. Specifically, I think, and you can correct me at any point if I'm wrong, the Commodore 64. Is that the one you collect the most of?
A heavy bent towards, yes.
A heavy bent toward the Commodore 64.
Yes.
Okay. So this is Greg Wesson. And Greg, what... not even before we get to you, when did this all start? I have a vague memory of seeing a Facebook ad saying that Commodore or somebody was actually recreating their old system.
We can look at that.
Might have been Atari.
I've got that too.
Okay. All right. So, to your knowledge, how did this all get restarted?
Restarted, I think it's just somewhat of the nostalgia factor for a lot of people.
Okay.
People who are in their mid-40s, I'm right there, grew up using the Atari, the Commodore, the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, all the way up to Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, and are looking back fondly on their childhood, and that was a big part of what they did.
Okay. Well, can we trace who started it? I mean, any particular company? Or were these fans doing this? Was this somebody who was just a techie, and he got all the parts and wiring that he needed, and he started it himself? What do you know?
No, there's a company called At Games,
okay,
and they started putting out some emulated systems, like the Atari.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it was called the Atari Flashback. And you just plugged it in via RCA connection to your TV, and you could play the old Atari games.
Okay.
You didn't have to go out and buy the cartridges. It would have 60, 70, 80 games on it.
It was built in.
Built in.
Okay.
And it had the joysticks and everything, and you could play it. And the first iterations were not very good, laggy, all that. Truth be told. And so they released 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. And they got better, and people started to see there was money in it. And so the big kickoff was the mini Nintendo system, the mini NES sitting over there.
Okay.
And it had 30 built-in games. People went crazy for it. It came out at $60. It had one controller. You had to buy a second one. Most people went for wireless because the controllers' wires were really short. So that really created a frenzy. Because right after that, Genesis had one come out, PlayStation had one come out, Atari had a new one come out. They did a Super Nintendo one. They haven't gone past that.
Okay.
But I think that really pushed some nostalgia. And then people were like, but this game isn't on there, and that game isn't on there. And in order to do that...
They wanted all their old favorites.
I need my old favorites. And this doesn't feel like the real thing. So I want my original one. And so then you go eBay and Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, and people are looking for these old consoles. And then prices go up, and fervor is created.
So it sounds like it's almost cyclical.
Yes.
The company put something out, everybody got excited about it, and the demand grew so high that they put out more and raised the price, and there was more demand. And
yes.
Until somewhere out there was market saturation. Have we reached market saturation? Is this still going up?
It's still going up for the
most
part. It's probably close to its peak.
Is this part of the new resurgence, or is this an old one that you found?
That is an old one.
Okay.
It's not my original.
So this is from the 80s?
That is from the 80s.
And it works?
And it works, yeah.
Okay.
Most of mine work. Some of them I'm still getting repaired, but most of mine...
Now, I went to, you have a semi-annual or
Yes.
annual. Okay, you have a
Semi-annual.
semi-annual gaming weekend where
Yes.
you invite your buddies from college, and I went to the last one, and you actually had one of these open. Are you a do-it-yourself repair guy? Are
I'm
you
working on it.
working on it? Okay.
I have learned a great deal in the last year and a half.
We had an Atari,
Yeah.
and I remember Adventure, and
Yes.
to me that was astoundingly thrilling
It is.
as a kid.
I love playing Adventure.
I forget what else we had. We did. Who did? You're running through the jungle and you're jumping on alligator heads.
Pitfall.
Pitfall. Who did Pitfall?
Activision. Look that up.
Activision. Okay.
Yes.
Was Activision a separate system?
Activision was a different company.
A company,
They
but you
were a
could play it
software
on
company.
Atari.
They were a software company.
Okay.
So they created software for different. Yeah.
All right. So what was?
Systems.
My wife insisted I ask. What was in television?
As another console.
That was a console.
Alongside ColecoVision,
Okay.
Atari, and a few others. Out
Do
there.
you have any of those?
I do not currently have a television or a ColecoVision. I
Okay.
had friends who had them when I was a kid, but I never had one, and there's just not that much nostalgia for me there. Now, coming in October, I do have the new Intellivision, Amico, and I had pre-ordered that long ago,
Okay.
and that'll be coming.
All right.
Yeah, add more.
Kind of a side note. Since we're close enough in age, do you remember the days when the gaming console was this thing that you actually had to put, instead of discs or these cartridges, you actually put a cassette tape in
So
and press play?
the Commodore originally came with cassette players.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, if you go over to Europe, that was the biggest thing over there. They're far less expensive than a disk drive. Loading times were much worse.
I was going to say, I don't remember what we had, but you put the cassette in and you
Yep.
press play, and the screens
So-
showed little dots of progress, and that's
There's the cassette
that's
unit.
kind of one of them.
That's the cassette unit for the Commodore.
Commodore. I wonder if I
Yeah.
had it. But it would take about 5 minutes.
Yes,
And that's if the console read all of the audio cassette correctly.
correct.
If it did not, you had to start over. It could take half an hour to get your favorite game
Yes.
up and running.
But it was really easy to copy them and hand them out.
Ah.
You had a dual cassette.
See, I wasn't devious like that when I was a kid.
I didn't have any tapes, but they were it's just audio data.
Yeah. Have you ever not had a Commodore?
No.
So
I have my original.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's set up out in the other room.
Wow. See, it's all a blur to me because all we had was an Atari. Any experience I had with a Commodore and television, any of that, it was at friends' houses. They were the ones with the other systems. Fact or myth? If the cartridge doesn't work right, you pull it out and blow on it.
Myth.
Okay.
Terrible idea.
Why was it a terrible idea?
Terrible
Because I
idea.
did it.
Moisture.
Oh.
There are metal connections on those cartridges,
Mm.
and moisture from your breath gets in there and causes issues.
Next question then. Why so many? I mean, we have 3 sitting right here on this table. What is this?
That is also a Commodore.
Okay.
This actually is not a 64.
Okay.
This is a VIC-20. This was the predecessor.
VIC-20.
Yes. Much less powerful. This was the first huge hit for Commodore.
And you say it was before the 64?
Before the 64.
I had never even heard of it. Okay. They even have a pound sign on the keyboard.
Yes. They were big in Europe.
And what's that one?
So that is also a Commodore 64.
Okay, that's fine.
That is an early version that we can look at the board in, and you can see some of the chips and...
I don't know that would mean anything to me.
Probably not, but it's actually got a beautiful aesthetic.
Let's experience the aesthetic of the interior of a Commodore 64.
So 1982 is when these were produced. This was one of the first ones. The chips all have dates on them. It's week and then year. So it's 19th week of 1982 is when that chip was produced. And these are ceramic RAM chips.
You've got some that are glossier than others. Are these replacements?
Nope.
No?
Nothing in there has really been replaced, I don't think.
Okay. I have a Mac that's 12 years old, and it keeps threatening every day to die.
So if you look at the bottom of
The
it,
fact that this is up and running.
the serial number's right here. So this is number 52,208.
Okay.
Their
What does that mean?
estimates-
Yeah.
The estimates on how many were produced range from 12 million to 17 million, and that's number 52,000. The first 80,000 are called silver labels.
Oh, so you have a
reason.
silver label.
So if you look at the label on the top keyboard, you can see that it's silver as opposed to this rainbow.
Got it. Well, okay, here's your problem, though. Attempted repair by unauthorized persons voids the warranty.
I haven't attempted to repair it yet.
Oh, okay.
I've looked at it.
You've opened it up.
I have not attempted to repair it because I do not want to damage it. That is an original piece of advertising.
For $5.95, you get what nobody else can give you for twice the price.
All right, so this is my original. We talked about that. This is my original Commodore. And we got this, I believe, in 85. If memory serves, I was pretty young. I have had it repaired, but it is functioning. The original 1541, the updated version, they took the power transformer out of this because it heated so badly and put a power brick on them. This was the one that went with the VIC-20. And then those are the ones that went with the Commodore 64Cs. So they kept reinventing themselves. This is the original monitors, the 1701 and then the 1702. I even have a couple with the flaps still on them. That's getting harder to find these days. And these are all Commodore 64s. And these are 64Cs back here. And then my joysticks. And then these are Commodores down here, 64s. Let's see what we got here. And there we are.
Ooh.
Yeah.
64K RAM system.
Super classic.
With the big square blinking cursor.
Yes. Yes. This was the mini diskette.
Yeah, I remember.
Because the other one was 8 inches. And this is 5 1/4.
Oh, see, I never
The
had
originals were the 8s. You know, they weren't really used at homes very often. But this did get considered the mini diskette back in the day. And so we'll just pull up the file here. So I'm going to load.
Yeah.
And this is the directory from drive 8. This is drive 8. Like I said, if you have 4 drives, you can go 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
So this is drive 8, so it's getting to that. Now the disk drives are actually interesting because they have a processor. And they have RAM. They're basically a computer in and of themselves. Somebody actually just recently loaded an entire program into the disk drive, disconnected the Commodore, and ran the program just from the disk drive because it had that much power inside it.
Just to do it?
Proof
yeah. Okay. All right.
Proof of concept. Can do it. All right, so then we're going to see what's in that directory. Which this is.
I'm starting to remember this.
From,
this is starting to look. Yeah.
So and there's
Centipede.
Yes.
Congo, Dig Dug,
These
Donkey
are some
Kong.
of the absolute classics, right? This is a slick stick joystick. I have quite the compilation of joysticks.
Okay.
I did not have one of these as a kid.
We had the solid black one with just the black post.
The Atari
up the middle. Yeah.
Yep. These are nice. They're like a short throw on a manual drive on a car.
But see, with this one here, you're missing the thrill of gripping the whole thing and slamming it so hard that after a few months you have to buy a new one.
You'll just press F1 to play the game, and there you are. And this was far beyond the Atari. If you've ever seen the Atari version of this game,
I know I have, but again, it's
horrible.
not since the 80s.
It was not well received even as a game then. They just didn't put any time into it, I guess. There were far better games on the Atari.
I forgot the siren played through the whole thing.
Yes, and it gets faster as you know.
I have a memory of the siren only playing when you ate the...
No,
it actually stops
siren.
when you play.
A different siren, yes.
I'm not going to last long.
That's all right.
Of course, to do it right, you have to tilt the controller.
Yes.
Because that, of course, makes it work better.
The classic kinetic.
Oh, that was close. Okay. Thankfully, they were stupid. Oh, man.
So, yeah. There you go.
That concludes our travel back to the 80s and the exploration of Greg Wesson's collection of Commodore gaming console... No, Commodore computers?
Commodore computers.
They're technically computers.
And gaming consoles.
They played games.
They played games,
They were computers that played... Okay. I've been with him here now for an hour, and I still have to get my terminology straight. Because when I was a kid, it didn't matter. You just played games on them.
Yes.
I didn't care about the terminology whatsoever.
The idea behind them was the computers for the masses, not the classes. That was what they ran with. Yes.
Was that their actual slogan?
I think internally, I don't know if I ever saw it externally in marketing.
Okay. All right. So that was their philosophy behind closed doors.
Yes.
Okay.
Jacques Tramiel, Holocaust survivor, and
I'm trying to wrap up the show, and I'm still learning things.
There's tons to learn.
All right. Thank you for joining us on Nobody You Know. Thank you, Greg, for the tour. I'm still not much of a techie here. I'm supposed to tell you to click the like button if you enjoyed the episode, and the subscribe button if you enjoy the channel, and then the little bell next to the subscribe button so that you get notifications every time I upload a video, which I'm 4 for 4 now on every Tuesday at 6 p.m. right here on Nobody You Know. I think that really does wrap it up. I'm Brian Johnson. This is Nobody You Know, only now you do.